receptionist said, "Sir, when did you arrive in this country?" And I said, May 1934. Being Indian is a feeling of belonging. Diversity is something that makes India unique because it's a diversity you won't find in other parts of the world.
Hi, I'm Pearl D'Souza from the New Indian Express, and with me is the famous author of children's books, Ruskin Bond. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Bond has an interesting bond with India, as everybody knows. Mr. Bond, you had briefly mentioned in your interaction about being Indian, what it is to be an Indian. So if you could just tell us a little more about that.
Well, I think it's something that's where you feel that you belong to the land, no matter if you're living north, south, east, or west, and going to any part of this country, you still feel at home. Well, which is how I've always felt. That this is familiar ground. I'm at home here, even if it's the first visit. So, and this is something that I've not felt in any other country. Even though as a young man I went to England, which was my ancestors' country, I never quite felt I belonged there. So I think being Indian is a feeling of belonging, and from there you go on to absent. My father was born in India, my grandfather was born in India, and on both sides of the family, maternal and paternal. So in any case, that's enough to make anyone an Indian. But because perhaps of the European ancestry, sometimes one is mistaken for a foreigner or an outsider. And I've understood that from time to time. For instance, in a hotel near the airport in Delhi, a few years ago, the receptionist said, "Sir, when did you arrive in this country?" And I said, May 1934. My stock. But what I was trying to explain is that it's history, really, that is important. Your personal history as it intertwined with the country's history.
Could you elaborate a little on this? Race did not make me an Indian, but history did. And in the long run, it's the history that counts.
Yes, because one's personal history, one's ancestral history, and the fact that I think also the place where you grow up and spend your childhood and boyhood I think with most people, the place which is the closest to you in your heart and mind.
Correct. And you said you're going to elaborate it in your works ahead.
Well, it's there perhaps in my childhood stories and my boyhood stories. Oh, and that particular essay, which I wrote in the 1980s in a newspaper called the Indian Express, although it was then one Indian Express, I think. And it got reprinted various times. But it was it was very short. So I think it could be developed, the theme.
Right. So what do you think about the recent Ayodhya verdict that came out today?
No, I haven't looked at it yet, because you kept me busy down there in this. Well, I hope it makes everybody happy. I'm not sure. I'm not someone who could look into the future that well.
Well, you've written extensively about diversity of people.
That's true. Diversity, unity in diversity. And diversity is something that makes India unique because it's a diversity you won't find in other parts of the world. You go to Europe, languages change, vary there. but the lifestyle and the way of life of people is very similar. From one European country to another, not much difference. Whereas, and this you could say same for other America and other nations, but I think in India there's so much diversity that it varies from. I mean, yesterday I was in Hyderabad, today in Bangalore, and they're totally different.
Yeah.
And so this, for me personally, and as a writer, there is never a dull moment because things are changing all the time. The places are different, people are different. Maybe that can create problems, as it does from time to time.
Yeah.
But it's also what makes it unique.
Yeah. You've also touched on various diverse landmasses. You've touched on the hills when you were in Missouri.
Right.
How do you see the concept of climate change that's evolving into the
Climate change is I think now. At first I perhaps thought maybe it was exaggerated up to a couple of years back, but now it does seem to be pretty well upon us, and maybe there's no going back. The way things are moving quite dramatically in terms of climatic change. Not, I mean, in every country, or, every part of the globe, and while some nations are trying to do something about it, including India, but there are maybe others who aren't too bothered. So and yet everybody has to make an effort. If it's anything to be done about the rapid changes in climate and the way it affects life on this planet, and it's usually of a destructive and negative nature, the changes that are taking place, because they're very often man-made changes. I mean, the seas, for instance, being, you believe it or not, but not long ago, and certainly not in Bangalore, when I ordered fried fish and chips and I cut the fish open, there was a button inside, and that to a plastic button.
Oh.
So, obviously, it's not a change for the good.
Yeah. But how are we capturing it in our literature? Because you said your perspective of literature was to capture the reality around you as much as possible. The people, the diversity, the ecology, the nature, railways, for instance, you've captured. Because it was around you. How do you see the climate change being captured in literature?
It's not much. It hasn't been captured a great deal as yet. Certainly not in fiction much, or in poetry, but it should be. And here and there, over the years, I've written stories which do show the changes taking place. An old one called Death of the Trees and others. And that, I think, it also the natural world, the vegetation, is being pushed back a lot by the obvious pressures of population, which is at least in most countries. So as I was saying, it's perhaps reached a point of no return.
Right. So you are working on your upcoming. You're always work in progress, because you're constantly writing 2 pages a day for a new novel or a new book.
Not 2 pages every day, because I'm very lazy. So I didn't do 2 pages this morning, certainly. And but when I'm home, I try to do something in the morning. Usually it would be 500 words or 1,000 words.
So tell us a little about your work in progress. What you're working on now.
Oh, sure. I've just done 2 or 3 new short stories. I have several more in mind, or I have notes for them. I'm working on the 4th part of a boyhood memoir, which will be published in the coming months. Hopefully another children's book. Somebody wants me to write a book on how to write a book or how to be a writer. And I usually tell people, don't be a writer. So it'll be a very short book. So there's always something being written. And Rakesh and Bina will tell you how they find me at my desk, which is placed right next to my bed, so that as soon as I'm drowsy, I topple over and sleep. Sleep being my hobby.
Wonderful talking to you, Mr. Bond.